Victory at Reading. Thank you for your presence again. Over the past few weeks, we have been covering a number of topics ranging from anger, and then we covered finances, and then we've also spoken a bit about becoming indispensable at your workplace, and we now covered also homeschooling. And this week we're going to be talking a bit about managing your debt. And this is in line with coronavirus around, the challenges, work. It's really important that we start to manage our finances, because we can see from the markets, everything out there, that we are Christians, are people of faith, but also we have to be good stewards. And good stewards also means managing your resources, which also means sometimes having to deal with debt and make sure that the debt you have, you manage it better to make sure your finances go better. So this week we have Deacon Institute again, our resident expert on finances, here to share with us some tips about managing your debt. Now, we do want this to be a collaborative session, so your inputs are valuable. You can type anything in the chat box and I will see it as we go along. But also you have the ability to raise your hand if you want to speak. So if you would like to make a point or contribute anything, feel free to raise your hand using the chat box. There is an icon there. Click to raise your hand. If I can, which you can click to raise your hand. If you do that, then we can see you. If I just show you what that's like here, and you can, I believe you should be able to raise your hand. I can't raise my hand because I'm not speaking, but you have the ability to raise your hand, and then we can see you. So do raise your hand if you want to say something, but if you want to chat, do chat in the chat box and we'll pick it up. But we want this to be a collaborative session where we all talk, because we can all learn from each other. So with that said, thank you very much for joining this Managing Your Debt session. And I would like to welcome Deaconess Titoloko to speak from here. So over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on this session. Like Femi said, we're hoping that this will be a productive session for everyone, and it will be one where we can all, instead of me just talking, you can all sort of share your concerns and share your views. So that kind of makes it, because debt is something that is not, it's personal to each individual, and we are all on at a different point within in our journey of trying to manage our debts. And so if we make it a more interactive session, it'll be easier then to be able to at least give some tailored answers to certain questions that you may want answered. And obviously, we're a family here, so I'll start. Okay. I'm not about to define what debt is to everybody. I think we all know what it is to be in debt. It just means that some debts are good, some are bad. But today, what I'm focusing on is you have debts that you want to clear. You have debts, or you've made a decision that you don't want to be spending more than you're earning anymore. And all the debts that you have at the moment, you want to find a way around it and how to reduce that. So this is what this session is about. On Sunday, they went through the Bible passages up to everything. Femi, can you roll? They went through the Bible passage. And one of the things I would just want to remind us, and it's that we are all Christians, and it's important to know the mind of God about debt. And the reason I'm going to remind you of what this is that this is what you're probably feeling personally now because of the debts that you have. The Bible says, and this is, I said, what did God say about debt? It says, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. The borrower is slave to the lender because when you're in debt, if you go to work and you come back, apart from maybe feeding your souls and body, you will be paying your debt from the work that you've done. And you're not enjoying it or building assets or using it to enrich other people. You're going to work. Some people go to work and all the money they earn, it's literally trying to pay off their debts. And that's what the Bible says about borrowing. And it says that we must pay back. I've had people who borrow money that have no intention of paying it back. It is against the biblical principles. The Bible says the wicked borrow and do not repay. And we all know the reward of the wicked according to the Bible. So I'm believing today, because you have chosen to sign on to come on this session today, is because you're not a wicked person and you know that you have to pay the money back regardless, even though it's hard now. So that's the only thing I'm going to share about what God says about debt, and that we always have to have that in mind every time we borrow money. That what does it mean really what this step I'm taking, what does it mean for me? So now, obviously, we are, me included, we're now in debt. We want to do something about it. So Femi, can you roll to the next one? So what is the starting point? Like I said, we know we have debt. What do you do? I believe that the first thing you need to do is actually set yourself a target, a goal. Your goal is, I want to clear my debt. Some people's goal might not be clearing the debt. Some people's goal might just, because it depends where you are in this debt journey. Some people's goal might be, I just want to be able to pay more than the minimum amount. If I give you an example, if you owe £2,000 and you, if you owe 20,000 and you're only paying the minimum amount, if you owe 20,000 and you're paying the minimum amount, it will take you 34 years to pay that off. And it's amazing how a little amount, like £50 extra a month, can shift that 34 years to like 10 years. So it is very important to understand that there are certain actions that we take that will mean you're in bondage for longer, and things that you can do that will set you up free quicker. So, so I'm saying that you need to set yourself a target. What do you want to do? Is it, I want to be debt-free in 5 years' time? I want to be debt-free in 2 months' time? Whatever it is, you need to set it, make it plain. Bible says we should write it down. Make it plain. Put it on your wall. I've started doing something. Next to my bed is my wardrobe. Now I put something on a yellow stick and I put it on. So when I turn my head while sleeping or when I wake up, that's the first thing I see. And that's when I've decided to start putting the targets that I've set myself, or the reminders that I want to set myself. So set yourself a target. Aim for something. What is your vision? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And I said that then once you say that, the next thing you need to do before you even start doing anything, these are all the mindset you have to get right. You have to determine that you are not going to get into any more debts. So that means that you're going to stop spending money you don't have. If you're going to stop spending money you don't have, that means that you're not going to be using your credit cards. You're not going to kind of just say, this is what I want. So you're going to stop buying what you want and only stick to what you need. And you stop doing things because, oh, Femi just got a BMW. I need to buy a X5 to show him that I can do it. In actual fact, you're borrowing money to do it. So you need to get away from that level first and say, okay, I've been there, I've got the badge. Now a lot of us are in debt that you are suffering inside. It's stressful for you. You have sleepless nights. Some people, they're not at that point yet. Some people they're refusing to open their letters because they know it's a debt letter that's coming in. Some people they have bailiffs knocking on their doors that they're not answering to. Some people will have county court judgments against them. These are all the different stages. And for each stage, there is actually different solutions. So depending on where you are on your debt journey, what you have to do, it differs. So I've said that, so those are the first thing. You have to determine that, yes, I'm not going to do this anymore. Then the next thing you have to do is then you need to then understand what is your current position. The last time I spoke to you all about budgets, and I hope that by now you've all gone back and written down, how much do I earn? How much do I spend a month? And in that, you will have identified what your needs are and the areas where you've just been want. But more importantly, the reason you're doing this is that once you put together, this is what you earn, this is what you spend, you will be able to identify what you have left that you can use to pay your credit card. I'm assuming, because some people are probably at that point where they're not paying their credit cards anymore, that their base spend is so much. But I expect that is not that it's either you're not earning enough income at all, and as such, you're just barely covering your day-to-day priority spend. That is a different issue. Or even though you're earning a lot of money, you have so much credit, so much debt that even paying all the minimums leaves you with nothing. So you need to understand where your position is. And to help you do that, I would say to you that you need to list out every single credit card that you have, every single debt that you have. Take a piece of paper, take a spreadsheet. It doesn't matter what you're using. List out every single debt you have. When I did it, it scared me. So when each one of you do it, I think we will all be at different levels. So when you put that down, the other thing I want you to put down from your statement, for each of the debts that you have, put against it the interest rate that you're paying on it. Why am I saying that? If you have a bank loan, the chances are your interest is probably like 7.9% or 4.9%, depending on when you got the loan. However, if it's a credit card, and depending on which credit card you have, it may be 20-something%. Some credit cards are 100%, different things. And until you take a fine look at the small print, you don't really realize how much you're paying on it. So those are the first thing you need to do. List out all your debts and what you're paying on them. Femi, can you roll to the next one, please? Okay, so once you've done that, we then need to prioritize the debts. And the reason I'm saying this is this. Depending on the debt that you have, the consequences differ. There's some debts that you have, and which is what we're showing at the moment, that if you have those debts and you don't pay, the consequences are graver than other things. So what do I mean by that? Things like if you don't pay your council tax, if you don't pay TV licenses, electricity, gas, your mortgage, your income tax or VAT tax, national insurance. If you don't pay any of those things, the chances are you're going to receive a county court summons quickly. Bailiffs will be sent to you. If you don't pay your mortgage, obviously you will lose your house. That is important. If you don't pay for your heating, you will get cut off unless you reach out to them and they will give you some emergency heating and some support. But all of those ones, the consequences are graver than others. And I'm going to point out something to you as well. If you owe money and you have a house, the consequences are actually graver than if you don't have a property. And why do I say that? So if you have a property and you owe money, and say your creditors they take you to court and they realize you have a property, they will put a charge against your property. And what that means is that when you want to come, they put a second charge on it. What it means is that when you want to come and sell your house, one, you can't sell it without their permission. And they can actually instigate you selling your house, even though there's a first charge on it, which is your banker or your mortgage provider. They can instigate that you sell your property just because they want to get their own money out of what you owe them. And at the same time, if you think about it, that cuts into your equity and all of that. Whereas if you're renting, there's no property they can put a second charge on. and I'm not advocating this, please, but I'm just saying it so you're aware of it. So the what they can do, even if they take you to court and you can't pay or anything, is that you will have your credit score will go down. It will be you have a county court judgment against you, which will be taken off after 7 years, and you haven't paid it. You haven't paid. That's it. It gets written off. But we're children of God, and that's not what we're trying to do. Okay, so all this debt. So what I'm saying now is that once you write out your budget and say, this is what I earn and this is what I have, everything that I'm showing at the moment, which are your council tax, your TV license and things, you need to start paying them first. You need to pay them. If you can't pay them, get in touch with them to say, this is the situation and this is how much I can pay. Don't wait until it gets to court or you're cut off before you do something. A lot of people don't want to talk directly to their banks or whatever, regardless of what it is. If you don't want to talk to your banks, there are different agencies or different organizations out there that will help you talk to them. We'll come to that later. And there's a reason for me to say, because some of them will charge you money, some will say it's free. So depending on what the debts, or depending on where you are and how confident you are and the homework that you have done, which means you've analyzed your budget, you know what it is, and you've worked out how much you can afford to pay, you can talk to all of these people yourself and say, this is the situation. And you will find out that a lot of them are quite sympathetic. Just as a side comment, if your situation is temporary, say like because of this COVID, like I said the last time, things like your mortgage, your car loan, and electricity and things, you can get in touch with them, your insurance policies, you can get in touch with them now and say, I've been adversely impacted by COVID, and they will give you a 3-month breathing space for you to sort of rearrange extend your loan or rearrange it for later. Obviously, they might charge you interest for that amount that they're deferring for you, but you can do that. And I would suggest that just to get you into a position where you are where you can think about what you want to do, you might want to take those advantages now, because it gives you 3 months to then sit back and say, how am I going to do this? Femi, can you roll? Okay. For your non-priority debts, these are things like your overdraft, your personal loans, your, well, if you borrow money from family, hopefully you can beg them and they're not going to be as bad. Your credit cards, catalog cards. So these are all the cards, and those are non-priority. Why they're not priorities? Right? Obviously, if you can't pay them, yes, they may take you to court, but it takes longer. The same thing applies. And I'm going to share something with you. If you owe your bank money and your credit card money, and you've spoken to them and they've reduced the amount you can spend and help you manage what you can spend. If, however, they're getting to the point of what credit card company does is this: if you owe them money and it gets to a certain point, they can't get the money off you and whatever, they will sell on that debt onto a debt factoring company. So what that company does is they'll come to the bank and say, I'm going to buy all your debts off you. So like if you owe the bank £100, they will give your bank £30 for the amount you owe them. And then those companies will start chasing you. So it's no longer the bank. You don't owe the bank anymore. You suddenly now got a letter saying you owe this Joe Blogs because they bought that debt from the bank. And your bank, and they'll let you know, because some will tell you we're going off before they sell it off to a third party who start chasing you and tell you you owe them the £1,000. If you're able and you offer your bank £3,000, they will write off the rest of the debt. So you can see what is happening. They're either selling it off to somebody, or you can say, okay, this is how much I have. And as long it has to be at least 30%. That way, a reasonable credit card who knows that they're not going to get anything more from you will take that off you. So always think that is obviously your last resort, because that's not the first thing you want to be start to do it. Okay, so all of these other credit card debts, what have I said? I've said to you that once you have this, you have to work out what is your minimum payment on each of the cards. So each card that you have, what is the minimum payment? And some of it might be, the standard minimum payment might be 1%, but because you have difficulty, if you go and speak to them, they might reduce that to you and say, okay, we will make that 0.5%. You lower your minimum payment, and then make sure that you start paying, you take the card that has the highest APR and start paying that off. So you say, like, so if you have a card that is 30%, one that is, I don't know, one that is 18%, start with the 30% off and start paying that off first. Prioritize based on the interest rate that you are paying on them. Then the next thing you need to do, if possible, if I'm assuming at this moment that your credit score is not as bad yet. If your credit score is not that bad yet, try and apply for a balance transfer, a 0% balance transfer card. That actually depends on your discipline. So don't forget, you've already told yourself at the beginning, your goal is that I want to be debt-free. I'm not going to spend money I don't have, yet I'm asking you now to go and get a balance transfer card. That is because what I want you to do, if you have a card you're paying 18% on, if you get a 0% balance transfer card, which probably will give you 24 months or something in terms of the length of period. The length of period differs depending on your credit score. When you go to your credit score, all Experian, credit card, all of these people will give you who will lend you money, or who will give you a new card. And some of them will pre-approve you. They'll tell you you'll be pre-approved for this card, 0% transfer. So that if you do that first, one, it's not going to affect your credit score and the risk of you being turned down. Then you can then use that and say, okay, fine, I've gotten this. I know that I'm going to get 0% for the next 24 months. Then transfer that balance onto your 0% card. That way, you will now start, you know that you're not going to be paying any interest rate over a period of time, and you can start paying the money down. More importantly, in this day and age, some of us, we do this, and I'm guilty of it. I have credit card debt and I have savings, and I'm saying to myself, I don't want to spend my savings. What I would say to you is that if you have savings that is more than 6 months. So let me go back. My expectation is that you have an emergency fund that says, if I don't have any job for the next 6 months, I'm going to be able to live. I'm going to have some money put aside. That's your emergency fund. And then you may have extra. So if you have extra, at this point in time, your money in the bank is earning you nothing, 0. So use that savings to pay off your debts, because your debt is 18%, 90%, 20%. So it's not worth it you having savings and then leave your credit card. So use that money to pay off your debts. That's the thing you should do. If possible, and this is if possible, try and earn extra. And why am I saying if possible? A lot of us only stick to our day job, which we've gone to the work 9 to 5, and that we say that is it. I'm tired, I can't do anything. If you have debt, I would strongly suggest looking for alternate source of income, where even though you come back from work in the evening, you can still do something. It might be weekend job, it might be anything. Any extra money you earn like that will then go towards paying off these debts. So all of this is obviously assuming that you can pay off the debts and things. If you cannot pay, if you're at that point where there's no money coming in, or you're just barely paying off your priority debt, and you have all these non-priority debts that your providers are on your case as well, there are things you can do. What you can do varies. And the first thing I would say to you is that if you get to that point where actually there's nothing, I don't know the word for it, that if you shake me from bottom to you're not going to get anything, there's nothing left. My first advice to you is that get in touch with a debt advisor. Why do I say that? What a debt advisor will be able to do for you is to talk to all your creditors. And I'm not advocating, because some debt advisors will charge you money for giving you advice. I will show you a slide and we will send it out later, where all these people that you can get in touch with for free. What they will be able to do for you will be to talk to all your creditors and try and pull all the money together and negotiate on your behalf and say, okay, this is what you have, and as such, you're going to pay £5 or £1 per month, depending on how bad the debt is. But when you do such things, there are various things. There's debt management plan, there's administration order, depending on what your situation is. Debt management plan means they just gather together all your debt and you're paying an amount that is then shared amongst all your creditors. Administrative order is where you could go do it, or an advisor can, if you have a county court judgment on your priority debt, you can go to the court and say, this is how much I owe. This is how much I owe. I cannot pay it. And the court will ask you, how much can you pay? You can say it's £1, whatever, fine, no problem. And they will then make an administrative order that you can only pay £1 whatever, and so that your debtors will stop chasing you. So that is, you can do that. There is involuntary administration. Involuntary administration. But when you do that, all of these things that I can list out for you have consequences. If you take an involuntary arrangement or debt plan, all of this will be recorded on your credit score, and they impact your credit score. So whatever action once you go down that line, or insolvency or bankruptcy, whilst it looks dire, at least you'll be free after a year. But all of them have consequences, and it is important that what you go for is tailored to your circumstance. So there's no one shoe fits all. You need to speak to somebody who can help you understand your particular situation and then tailor your requirements. But you must go into it with your eyes wide open, because anything that's recorded on your credit score, 7 years, it's going to stay there for 7 years. It might be longer. It will adversely impact you. Even when you think things are better, things can go wrong. Things are still recorded against you. Be mindful, depending on where you work. If you work in a bank or in certain institution, if you have any negative credit against you, you will never be able to work in a bank or in the financial services. So what you agree to, if you go for an involuntary arrangement or bankruptcy or all of this, you cannot become a director or a trustee, so there's consequences to some of the actions. So you need to be very careful. I'm mindful that I've been talking now for about 25 minutes. I'm going to keep quiet and see if anybody wants to ask me any questions, or if you have anything to input into this.
Okay, thank you very much, Deaconess. While you get some water, just to, is there any questions, contributions, thoughts? We want this to be a very collaborative session where everyone has some experiences or some questions. to share. And please don't, you can raise your hand if you want to speak, and we can give you access to the mic, or if you just want to chat, then Sister Liz, looks like Sister Liz wants to say something. Yeah, so Sister Liz, go.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's just a question. Dickness, you were saying something about the involuntary now reflecting on your score. Now, is this already before a judgment has been issued against you, or if you're trying to tackle it?
So, I mean, the chances are that by the time you go for an involuntary arrangement, it's probably affected. You're probably already, your credit score is probably been affected. This, what I mean by that is, say like you haven't been making your regular payments, you've been missing your payment, it then affects your credit score. If what you're telling me is that your credit score, you've been making all your payments, you have no problem with that, I would not suggest you go for an involuntary arrangement, no.
Okay, so maybe I missed out something. What I want to clarify is, the involuntary, is that the one where you say to them, let me just offer you something to write this whole thing off? Because that has known to work. I don't know if that affects your credit score. Now that's my question.
Yes, an involuntary arrangement will affect your credit score and your ability to get credit, and as well it will affect certain your ability to get certain jobs.
So it's not a good idea then telling them, can I offer you a certain amount to write it off? So writing it off is not a good idea. Is that what you're saying?
So what I'm saying to you then is that if those actions are your last resort, this is like, I have zero money coming, there's nothing that's happening, I can't do anything. You can't get money from stone. If you're not at that point yet, it is better for you to speak to your creditors and say what. So don't forget that this is a personal arrangement. You call your bank and say, actually, at this point in time, in between jobs, blah, 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 I can't, instead of me paying you £100 a month, I can only afford to pay you £30 a month for the next 6 months or whatever. That is not an involuntary arrangement. An involuntary arrangement it's like a contract. It's like you going to court and saying, I'm arranging, it's like you involuntarily declaring yourself bankrupt. Somebody's not forcing you to be bankrupt. And then you're now making an arrangement as to how you make, this is a legal arrangement. So those things you don't, that has more, what I would say, a bigger impact on your life than you just ordinarily calling your bank to say, oh, I owe you money. At this point in time, this is how much I can pay you. They're completely different things.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Good evening, Sister Tutu. This is Dan.
Good evening.
Just to follow on from what Sister Liz was asking. So the other option of entering into like a stretched temporary agreement to pay off the full amount, but maybe in limited sums over a period of time, would that reflect on your credit score, your credit rating? And secondly, around the issue of what did you call it? Bankruptcy. So in bankruptcy, does bankruptcy expire, or does it erase from your credit file after 5 years? And if it does, I've seen questions where they would ask, have you ever been declared bankrupt?
That is why I said that. Whilst bankruptcy means that your debt is wiped out after 12 months, you can come out of bankruptcy. After 12 months, you come out of bankruptcy. The mere fact that you've declared yourself bankrupt would adversely impact you in future, because certain places, like I said, you will never be able to work in certain places. You will never be able to take certain appointments, because by declaring bankruptcy, what it demonstrates is that you cannot manage your money. Hence, why should you be in a position of responsibility where you're managing other people's money?
And is there a time limit where that states or it's forever? When you say never, you mean?
Well, it's not. There's nothing that's there's nothing that's permanent. But you just have to know that in the short time it will affect you. You then have to build up your credit again.
Okay. So back to the first question, really, which was a follow-up to Sister Liz's question. So that temporary, what's it called, scaled back payment sum over a period of time, does that also impact your credit rating, or does that reflect?
Is this is the one that you've spoken to them yourself? You have not it's not an arrangement, yeah?
Well, okay, so technically maybe the technical term is not an arrangement, but I'm speaking in terms of, you get what I mean. You call them.
Well, okay, let me put it this way.
So let me just clarify.
If you know you're going to struggle to pay your monthly payment, and you call them beforehand,
yeah,
they will not put a negative, because you already told them, they know what's going on. They will not put a negative comment on your credit score.
Okay, that's why.
But be mindful that a negative comment will come on your score if you say, if they agree with you, you're going to pay £5 a month and you don't pay it. So you cannot afford to miss anything you agree with them. Whatever you agree, you have to continue to pay. If you miss it, then obviously the negative things affect your credit score.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And when you get that question that says, have you ever entered into a payment agreement with an organization, is that different then?
Okay, when you get that, yeah, I will tell you now. I mean, if you've ever entered into an agreement, voluntary, involuntary, whatever, if it's all of those things that I'm talking about, that you enter into an agreement, there is a database that exists where they record your name. So if they ask you, have you ever entered into it, and you say no, that tells about your integrity, because I can go into the database and I will see your name there.
Okay.
So if you've done it, you just have to come up that you've done it, because if you think you're hiding it, the database exists for them to check anyway.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. I'm just okay. Yeah. I'll shut up now.
No. Like I said, we want to make this session interactive so that people can understand, can kind of get. We can all contribute. It's not about me just saying everything.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked that one is if it doesn't reflect on your credit file, whereas they still keep it on a database, and they are asking that question, that means obviously they will still use it in making a judgment or a decision.
So don't forget that by the time you enter into an arrangement, let me say, if it's an involuntary arrangement, if it's a debt management plan, if it's a debt reduction, all of these plans that once you enter into it, it's like a legal contract.
Yeah.
And they keep a database of all of that. So if I want to know, even though on your credit card it doesn't say that you have entered into, there's a separate database for it for me to check.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? That was quite informative. Any other questions or contributions? Feel free to, is that studies again?
It's easy. That's it. There's no other person.
Okay, wait. So I think Sister Nkiru is here. So why don't I give Sister Nkiru a chance?
Please, that's fine.
Sister Nkiru, is that you? Am I right? Is that you?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry. It just when Sister Tutu was talking about counseling and debt management, I remembered one of the organizations we give out their information. It's called Christians Against Poverty. I don't know if it's something you know of, Sister Tutu. And I think sometimes they walk through churches. So I just thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Femi, can you go to the next slide? I'm trying to.
Okay, that's fine. Sister Liz, did you want to go very quickly or?
Yes, and maybe the first of all I was going to say is I think we'll need follow-on series on this. I got a couple of questions, but then I'm also mindful of time. So are we okay to get this on, or we put it in series? Because money issues, a lot of education is needed.
Yes. Obviously, like I said, I think we're probably only covered like 5%, 2% high level. So we can next week dig deeper, and where I can then go through each of the different agreements you can go to and the consequences for each one of them. But more importantly, I'm showing now the different the telephone and online services where you can get advice. Because more importantly, what I would say to anybody, and I don't know who on the line may be going through challenges, that a lot of us are in the same boat. People don't talk about that. They think, and you're not alone. It's they said a burden shared is a burden.
It's a burden lifted, yes.
Yes. And I would say to you that in all of this, if you invite God into your boat, invite God into your circumstance, because what happens is that you've already made up your mind. Yes, I'm in debt. I want to do something, but you're going to God as well. I say, God, I actually don't, I can't do this, because you need God's favor when you're talking to all of these people to give you beyond what you think you're able to negotiate with them. Do you understand? So when you partner with God on all of this, it's amazing how easy things would happen. I can give you examples of where this was years ago, where someone they were in front of the court. I'll give you an example with myself. I got pulled into all this magistrate court I got there and I'm thinking, I don't know why I'm here. But the other guy was saying everything. But all I could do was, I remember Pastor Akin was still alive, that prayed and whatever. We got there. And I told the woman my side of the story, that, look, this is what happened. And she asked me, how much do you have? And I said, I just blotted out a number in my head. I said 2,500 pounds. This is something that was 16,000 pounds. And he said, okay, that's fine. And I paid 2,300 pounds. And that was it. That was it. Not just was it, it didn't go on my credit score. That was what happened. So what I'm saying is that let's just do this by flesh. Pray, 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 but at the same time, take action. I'm happy to go deeper where we can do this in a series and we start taking things in bite-sized chunks so that it makes life easier for everybody. At least by the time we go through it, without anybody saying anything, whatever relates to you, you can pick out of that.
Yes. Thank you, man. And just to share a personal experience myself, I remember when you spoke about applying for a job, I remember once I wanted to apply for a job. I got a job with a bank. And when I had submitted all my information, all my documentation, the agency came back to me and said, unfortunately, we can't give you the job because it looks like, because it was a bank of Scotland at the time, it looks like you have something adverse on your credit. And I said, what? And I wasn't aware of anything. So I now said, how can this be? And I went to look at my credit score. And I now saw that it said I had that my Vodafone, it said Vodafone. So initially I said, I haven't paid my Vodafone bill. So I thought maybe this was from my younger days as a student, I haven't paid a Vodafone bill. And I kept thinking, and I said, I want to look more at it. So I now looked closer at it. And it turns out that the reason why was because apparently when I got made redundant from Vodafone, they paid me some redundancy money, but it looks like they had overpaid me more than what they were supposed to. But because they sent the letter to my former address and I never got back, they put that money down as a debt against me. So it turns out that I'm owing someone I didn't know about. And I ended up having to fight them and take them to court to say, I didn't know about this. You fired me, you gave me the money. And as far as I was concerned, it was the end of the story. And it went to court and I just had to pray about it. And God gave me favor that when we got there, the judge just said that, and they didn't even turn up anyway. And the judge just said, I consider this case closed and no further discussion. And sorry about the inconvenience. And they wiped it all off. But the reality is that by that time, no company is going to wait for you to resolve that kind of issue. So it ended well for me in one way, but the lesson is it can have an impact on career opportunities as well. If your finances in certain industries, if your finances, if there's a bad credit against you.
Okay, I'm mindful that we've run out of time, like we said, but if you want, we can do this next week instead of coming up with a different session. And then I will go through all the different kind of debt arrangement plan that there are that you can go into. If I'm very, very mindful that we keep talking. It will help if before next week you can do your budget, list out all your credits, and be familiar with where you are, because that kind of brings everything to the forefront and say, this is what I'm facing. Because a lot of us, we bury our head in the sand. And I've gone through this before. So, and I'm sure I'm still going through this because I never open my letters. I'm sure I'll see something that's like, really? So I want us to take this as a journey together of, if we all set our own personal goals, and in some time in future, we can look back and say, can you remember the seminar? And this is what we did about it. That will be a testimony for us as a church. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma. And God bless you, and God continue to give you wisdom and bless you too financially. And same for all of us. So thank you. Looks like we potentially have another topic for next week, which is part 2 of managing debt, part 2. Because none of us, we were not meant to be slaves. We are meant to be on top and not beneath, and the head and not the tail. The tail is always wagging behind, and the head is telling you what to do. So we should be in charge, not our debt controlling us. So thank you very much. Sister Liz, is that your hand up, still up, or?
No. Things were going in series, and I'm good.
So you keep it up till keep holding it up till next week.
Yes, the hand is still up.
In real life, not virtually. Keep it up. Okay, thank you very much, Pastor. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we can make these slides available.
Yes, I'll make it available. I'll put I'll make it available, and then we can then supplement it next week with all the different arrangements that you can get into with your banks. But more importantly, please, if you think you're not going to be able to pay anything, get in touch with your creditors now. I mean, we have an advantage of COVID period. Even if it's not COVID that got you there, you can use that as one of the reasons to negotiate. People are sympathetic to everyone's situation now. Use this as the opportunity to talk to them but before you talk to them, do your homework. You have to know where you are before you can talk to them. Because if you come to me and you're saying something and you can't even tell me where your situation is, then it doesn't look that good. That's where you end up having to go to all these debt arrangement. Don't forget that any arrangement you go for or any organization you go for, unless you're using the free one, there's a fee there. Whatever you give them, they're going to take some out of it before they pay. So it's like somebody is helping you, but you're paying them as well. So the more you can do by yourself, the less money you owe in the long run. So it is very important for you to understand where you are yourself. And then we can then start seeing, well, how can we work on this? And I would say as well, for some people, they're not confident enough to kind of say, I want to go and talk to these people. If you're not, please get in touch with one of the free advices. Yeah, use the free ones. At least you're not going to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. All right, God bless you, everyone. And we'll look forward to same time next week for part 2. So thank you, everyone. God bless you. Thank you very much, ma. And thank you, everyone. Goodbye, and have a great rest of the week and weekend.